I was getting ready to do a video, but look behind me. I have to go inside now and work out another way. Right, so I have a list here and the rain is not letting up, so I'm going to have to go inside. I'm going to turn to a microphone. See, there's a drop of rain straight on the... I'm getting rain on the camera lens. So I have a list that I want to go through. I can't cover everything, but I'll go inside, we'll do some pictures and microphone work, try and put this all together with some evidence and ask you what you want to discuss, because all of this is linked together, but they're all individual big things. So let's have a look at this list and then we'll go through it. David McBride being locked up by some pretty evil men that have done some pretty evil things that I put down on the courtroom record and no one wants to listen to. So David McBride, I'm speaking to you and your lawyers. Maybe you'll want to go through my work at some point and realise I did something that might be able to define some things for you. See, another spot on the camera of rain. Tommy Robinson, London. Now, Tommy, I'm addressing you. We went through this already. We can tell you what those police are, how they work, where they come from and who they serve. And we can tell you they don't serve King Charles III. So maybe you should look at what the police serve in the United Nations. Then we come down to the Olympics. I've downloaded 1 million videos to put together a full documentary on this because we have an Olympic boxer and a breakdancer. And an Olympic boxer that is technically a man. So this government supports wife bashing. That's about the sum of it. Go and bash your wife, it's alright. You can go and participate in the Olympics. You can join the women's sports. Be a woman beating up your wife in the ring. Right, then there's the breakdancing. And this is where I've got a whole entire documentary to go together for this one. Why is this such a big thing? I can explain to you why. So we'll go through that and how this woman was used, abused, laughed at, made a laughing stock all across the world, and then supported by a nanny government. There, good little child. You did so well out there, good little child. Everyone deserves to participate in the Olympics, where it's supposed to be the best of the best of the best, and we've turned that into inclusivity. Everybody has the right to participate. Everyone's a winner, right? So then there's all the responses to the Olympics. I mean, then we look at Mr. Beast and Logan Paul, and who they work for, Amazon and BlackRock. And we look at what they do to the world's youth and manipulate them into gambling and abuse. Technical, literal abuse that's allowed on the airwaves by certain partners, BlackRock and Amazon and the whole DEI stuff that you saw at the Olympics. And then we come down to this last point, which I'd really like to address to all Australians, because these two people are propaganda mouthpieces for the state and to me. Professor at University in New South Wales is one of the most opinionated propaganda mouthpieces that we've seen since the likes of sovereign citizen David Halpin, Magistrate of New South Wales, Magistrates Court at Lismore, now retired criminal magistrate. And now we have Anne Toomey coming along with her propaganda and lying to you all blatantly in video after video after video because the state lost the ability to use David Halpin. How do we know this? Because that other cretin, Rob Sudi, the one that likes to defame everyone's characters on behalf of the state so that the state can push its propaganda everywhere with the likes of Ann Toomey. Well, they're both working together. You can see this by Rob's comments on Ann Toomey's YouTube page. And Ann, I'm talking to you directly. You released a video that I downloaded which directly proves with full evidence that you don't work in a line of authority given to you by your ANZAC. You actually defined it and clarified it in one of your own videos. And you had the gall to publish it thinking that you were going to manipulate a population, but you actually proved everything that I said. You don't work for the Commonwealth of Australia. You work for foreign powers that came here to administer it. Administer it, Anne. Chameleon crown? No! Occupied crown. And Rob Sudi knows this as he goes and tries to attack anybody that stands up, because he works with those people called the Fixated Persons Unit inside the Anti-Terrorism Unit inside the State Protection Squad of the New South Wales Police Force. All those titles add up to, they don't serve you, they serve the state, and you're the enemy of the state. That's why they treat you like this. Now, Tommy, if you want to discuss something very important that's been put on the courtroom record, we already went through what you went through. The police, what we call fixated persons in this country, already proved the Nazi regime they work for. They work for. And Starmer, your two-tier Keir, obviously works for the same fucking mob, Tommy. A foreign power in your country. A foreign power in your country. It's time to start to realise this. Well, it stopped raining. So, David McBride was sent to jail for whistleblowing against criminal actions by the command in Afghanistan. In Afghanistan. And that command turned it into a Brereton report and pushed it all onto a soldier, therefore escaping any culpability or responsibility for the command that they issued. And David McBride going to jail is very demonstrative of that command silencing anybody that can step up and say, you're a war criminal. Now, Governor General, woke Governor General that was installed by Albanese, you're a war criminal for participating in this machine that did these sorts of things to David McBride. Now again, my experience in this is large and great, and if you want to talk to me, I'm here.
The principles matter, there's no doubt about it, and even if nobody believes me on that, I've always been happy to go to jail on that principle, to say I know, like all the people in the 1,000 years before me, that the law matters.
The government wanted to punish David McBride and to send a signal to other insiders to stay on the inside and to stay silent.
You have to stand up for the law. It's not something that you do to be liked, it's actually your job. And if you don't do that, you have failed in your job.
Former military lawyer David McBride has been sentenced to 5 years and 8 months jail in the ACT Supreme Court for sharing classified military documents with journalists.
Right.
No, Val, not from here. He's in jail.
Yeah, Mark, will he be in jail until 2030, in fact?
He was acting in the public interest, they talked about. And when we're talking about the paramount legislative duty that lawyers have to the court, that inherent in a lawyer's duty to the court is the duty to the community. It's always understood as that.
One of the problems you have is that people will, the media who are part of this problem, are interested in a bad soldier story, but they're not interested in a bad government story.
So, how do we know these things? I'm just going to point you to this video that I recorded earlier about a paste stick. Now, not many of you are aware that I get challenged on my knowledge by all sorts of people. And it should be reminded to you that you may not have the knowledge to be able to respond to some of these people. Now, Royal Australian Regimental Soldiers challenged me over what I discovered. And you know what this is, don't you, Albo? The Governor-General should know what this is, shouldn't she? I bet she's never used one in her entire life. Let me just stop and unfold this for you. Right? Unfold it. What does it look like? What's it look like? It's got 2 points on the end, and it's 2 sticks. And what's it for? What's it for? Now, why would a RAR soldier go and bring me one of these? Might have something to do with that Bible and me discovering something that none of you are aware of at all. So we'll go into this later. It's got measurements on it, and it's used for a specific purpose. What is it? That's used by the military. I showed a military man everything that I knew, and that's what came to his mind, because that is the foundation of things that a lot of you will never comprehend. Now, Tommy, this is the reason why the fixated persons units here in Australia tried to silence us and tried to use military action at war memorials across the country while we were celebrating our dead at a fucking war memorial, Tommy. Not doing politics, not running around the streets whining at the government of the day, which is technically a foreign power to your soils. We didn't whine. We stood up in the capacity that we were, and they still attacked us and attempted to silence us. What you are witnessing in England is exactly the same thing that we went through here in 2020. In the middle of the jibby-jabby lockdowns, did we go through this and stand up and defend against this foreign administrating power that runs your government, With
everything that's been happening, I did a couple of videos earlier, a couple of news reports. We gave you examples of two-tier policing and two-tier justice. People are being arrested for posting controversial, inaccurate content on Facebook or X. Inaccurate. Keir Starmer has just said, literally minutes ago before I went live, he's going to be forcing social media companies to do a crackdown and give information about the users when they do harmful but not illegal content. So legal but harmful content. Let's not forget, that's the fault of the Tory government because they introduced this law. Now, there will be two types of people who will make this video. One type would say, yeah guys, because of that, be careful. So what they mean is if they didn't have this tyrannical prime minister, they would have told you, yeah, say all the things, all the controversial things, but now, don't say it. And you got the different side, different types, who would make these videos, and it would say, now double down, say it. They're not gonna get into trouble, you would get into trouble. Be wary of those who are giving you caution because they are afraid, they are cowards. And be wary of those who are encouraging you to do things that are, whether you like it or not, is illegal.
See, so while we're on this topic of knowing the foundations of a country through the scripture, And then being able to define that in a court of law, to be able to define something to be foreign to the soil and government that is you.
Thank you for coming.
You mustn't send letters to the palace. You know what would happen if I was caught.
I need your help.
More money.
No. My father doesn't want to hide like this anymore.
Of course.
We both want to get back into favor with the court.
That's impossible. You know it, you're papist.
Why impossible? Everyone at court has a papist somewhere in their family.
Francis.
Just as you have. Speak to the Queen. You are her favorite.
They came in to manage what they called your debts. They are the banks. They are the reserve banks. They are BlackRock. Make no mistake that you using a reserve bank currency allows people like Ann Toomey and Rob Sudi to come along and manipulate you with created acts of legislation.
Now, while we didn't get everything right, I believe we got more right than wrong. And without dwelling on every decision we got wrong, I believe it's important to point out one mistake which was made by governments here and around the world, and that was the strict enforcement of vaccine mandates. Health officials and governments were acting with the right intentions to stop the spread. But if the impact of vaccines on transmission was limited at best, as is now mostly accepted, the law should have left more room for respect of freedom.
That technically aren't the law. They're statutory. They're commerce. And this is the big thing that a lot of people in this country have failed to realise, especially the police who work for this and have attacked their own countrymen on behalf of foreign interests in BlackRock, in the United Nations, in diversity, equity and inclusion that allows a male boxer to beat the shit out of a female boxer at the Olympics. The breakdancing is something I want to go into in specific detail because this woman was set up and the whole entire gameplay to allow that breaking into the Olympics with a woman that was a diversity, equity and inclusion professor in a university just like Ann Toomey.
I'm Margaret Bland. Do you find today's youngsters haven't got a clue when it comes to modern dancing? Well, here at my Bland School, we show youths how to dance morally on their own. This is the Lonely Lady two-step. No touching, no filth.
With a woman that was a diversity, equity and inclusion professor in a university just like Ann Toomey. Might explain something when we caught Ann Toomey out lying to the population, lying from her academia of glass ceiling.
What is terrorism and why is its definition important under the Constitution? These are the issues I'm going to address in this video today. Two horrific stabbing crimes in Sydney recently, one of which was classified as terrorism and the other was not, have led people to query what is meant by terrorism.
She can't get above the glass ceiling because those above her won't let her. She can't talk about the crown. She talks about a chameleon crown while a thug like Rob Sudi comes along and defames anybody that attempts to put the truth on the table. Isn't that right, Rob? Free man delusion. I'm waiting for someone to sue your ass for defamation of character, Mr. Rob Sudi. And all of you that are on that website, me included, laughable, because he tries to defame your character to uphold the law on behalf of a bunch of criminals you call the police. It's very obvious now. Two-tier policing. You're the persons of the government. You're the wards of state that they are going to push around and take everything from until you own nothing.
If you were going to be facing somebody trying to get into the cockpit, I want the passengers to get up and participate. I don't want them to think, oh, the government's going to take care of it. In fact, I wanted it in the pre-flight instructions from say that if somebody tries to get into the cockpit,
yes,
we rely upon the passengers to participate.
I want Flight 93.
Protect the cockpit. That's right. Protect the cockpit door. But governments don't do that because governments are in the total business of we'll take care of it. We protect you in every regard.
It's the infantilizing.
Yeah, of course.
Of grown-ups.
Yeah. And so you brought it up in the context of skepticism, and there's a great quote in that book, by the way, from who was the great astronomer?
Seth
Sagan,
Rogen?
Carl Sagan.
Oh.
Carl Sagan.
Seth
and
Rogen.
it's a beautiful quote. Give me the book real fast. Actually, I'll find it so fast because it's intentionally.
I know the quote
on the very first page.
I know what you're gonna say.
Listen to how great this is. If we are not able to ask skeptical questions or to interrogate those who tell us that something is true, to be skeptical of those in authority, then we're up for grabs for the next charlatan, political or religious, who comes along. It wasn't enough, Jefferson said, to enshrine some rights in a constitution or a Bill of Rights. This is the punchline. The people had to be educated and they had to practice their skepticism. Otherwise, we don't run the government runs us.
So, first up, I'd like to thank everybody that chucked in a donation. It's enabled me to keep going. Here's the details to donate. Very, very happy that we are able to keep going. So thank you very much to those of you that have participated, and we look forward to continuing. So I think for the rest of this video, given that I've put a whole bunch of topics down on the table to talk about, I'd like to concentrate on Tommy Robinson, because of what is actually going on in England right now is the exact same attack that they did on myself in 2020, causing Duke, Wisconsin to go into jail after being attacked by police on an Anzac War Memorial, on a war memorial of the forefathers of this country, attacked by foreign interests in the police in New South Wales. So Tommy, I'd like to inform you very clearly that I know what this English government is attempting to do, and it's not going to succeed in all these court cases. Half these people will be let off. But what I'm telling you is that their propaganda machine is being used to scare the population into not listening to you, which is exactly the same thing that happened here when we discovered who this government was, who they worked for, and how they weren't the de jure government of this country. And I can say to you, Tommy, the very, very exact same thing is happening in London, and we can prove it. We have all the evidence to be able to prove it. So Tommy, don't get so big-headed about where you stand. I have been watching the media defame your character, where in Australia they won't even publish my name. There's a reason for it, Tommy, and you are acting in a belligerent manner, although trying not to. It's because of some knowledge that you lack, which gives you a comprehension of who this two-tier Keir actually is, who he works for, where he came from, and how he managed to get into that position and push those ideologies while your king remains silent. Your king enabled it by opening the parliament and calling it his government. Is that king in line of authority to the crown? Is that king in line of authority to the Crown. Now, in Australia, it's very, very different because we separated from England in World War I. The Statute of Westminster 1931 very clearly defines that the British government had no ability to rule over this country anymore. But what happened in 1936? The abdication of a throne, Tommy, the abdication of a throne. And this is where at law I know what I'm talking about. You are facing civil war in your country, Tommy, and the only way that you're going to be able to move forward is by recognising this fact, and then recognising who the two parties in that war will be. Will be. Who does King Charles III serve? Who does Keir Starmer serve? Who do you serve? Tommy? Who? I'm not asking you, they came here and did this. I'm asking you very specifically who you serve. Who are you in this game, in this international world, in this international stage occupied by foreign interests? Who are you underneath all of that, Tommy? You don't discuss it, and those that listen to you with their open ears tend to get things wrong. And this is evident in the court case here against Kiskonen, where Kiskonen was advised on the courtroom record that he got it wrong, which led him into a jail cell because fixated persons or the State Protection Squad sought to protect the state over the people. The police sought to protect the state over the people, therefore negating their very own oaths, Tommy, their very own oaths, Tommy. And at the core of all things is an oath, isn't it? And if those police fail to abide by that oath and follow the will and wishes of a government, they have stepped outside of office at law, Tommy. They're not policemen. They're corporate thugs working for the United Nations, being pushed around by the government of the day that Charles III opened. Now, if you were to go to civil war, wouldn't Charles III be the other side? The other side, Tommy. In a war of the roses, Tommy. That's what you face. And you won't speak about it because you don't know. And that leads to riots and protests instead of men gathering their senses together and working out a solution to get out of this reserve bank currency, this digital currency. Go read the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Australia, Tommy. Section 115, all debts will be payable in gold and silver. Australia has not paid off a debt since 1967. Think about that, Tommy. Now, what do you do with the world watching you and the media publishing your name and attempting to defame your character all over the place when they won't even touch my name? They won't even publish my name. You can see by the people that I've addressed in this video alone that we're talking about the upper echelons of the academia in this country and the military and politics. Now, I don't do politics, Tommy. I do the law. I do the law to find out that after the abdication of the throne in 1936, someone else moved in. Someone else moved in. 75 years of peacekeeping, Tommy. Who are the peacekeepers? Now, one of the last things that is on my list to address is Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast was set up by powers that be. The people that monetarily finance things like YouTube. The people that monetarily finance his exposés into the television market like Amazon. All DEI, diversity, equity and inclusion, sucked Mr. Beast into the world of the Beast. And he became everything that is wrong with this planet. Mr. Beast became everything that is wrong with this planet. This is very directly demonstrated by the words of Logan Paul as well when he came to Perth. Or was that his brother? I'll get the video and we'll play it now.
I flew 30 hours to get booed. Okay, all right, that's the direction you want to go. We can go there. So it's WWE's first time coming to Perth. No, second time, brother. And I'm gonna personally make sure it's the last. This place sucks, guys. I said, when they told me we were coming to Perth, I said, hey, we gotta go to Sydney instead. I mean, even Taylor Swift went to Sydney instead of this dump. I'm serious. You Google like the top 10 things to do as a tourist in Perth. And number 1 is go visit an island full of rats. Not so different from you people, huh?
I put this down on the table 15 years ago to watch this country turn into a bunch of fine-chasing idiots seeded by the police on social media to fuck up their own court cases. Now, Tommy, what happens when you protest in the city? Don't the police come along with their infiltrators to cause the riots and then step back while everyone's rioting and blame it on you when they're the ones that actually seeded the violence on the streets in the first place with their very own officers undercover inside your groups? Of course they did. They got caught out at it. There's a video on YouTube of an officer standing there and giving a signal to one of the police on the outside. Grab this one. And then the police move in and take him. This is what you're creating, Tommy. You haven't created a solution for these people. All you've done is tanty. And this is where you need to look at a fix, Tommy. What are you up against? What is the actual problem that you face? And an abdication of the throne 1936 might give you an indication of what the fuck is going on in England. Would that Pope have something to do with it, Tommy? Like he did in 1600, like he did in 1550, like he did at the creation of the Church of England? And what's happening to the Church of England today, Tommy? They tabled a bill before Parliament to close it, therefore severing the line of authority in the kingdom in the first place, therefore making Charles III not your defender of the faith. Defender of the faith. Now we go back to the beginning of the video. What's a pace stick? And what's that got to do with your faith, Tommy? Time to realise, everyone. Time to realise. A reality is on the table while you're all scrambling and tantying like children still, and the media is playing that because they know you don't have the answers, chummy.
Welcome to another 1 Minute Wonder at the Ringing Museum. Today we're going to look at paste sticks. And we have Catherine and Aubrey today to talk to you about paste sticks.
Thank you, Oliver. The paste stick is normally constructed of a hardwood, either rosewood or oak, and then is tipped with brass, polished brass. It is in fact not just one stick, but two, and hinged. Sticks, hinge.
But Aubrey, is it really that simple?
Yes, Catherine, it is actually that simple. There is one more piece to it though, and that is the measuring bar. That allows the regimental sergeant major to measure out the length that he requires.
So again, I can't keep rambling. There is too much that I could possibly say. I could be here for a whole entire day, given the amount of stuff that's been put out on the media. I do want to address this breaking at the Olympics and how Australians got treated like little children by a nanny state. Good little child, you did so well. It's so good that you participated in the world's sport of sports, king of kings of sport, as a dunce. You brought dunces into the realm of the best. Because diversity, equity, all the little children need an equal slice of fame and success, even though they're incapable of achieving that fame or success. That's the lie that this government sold your entire country, and all the children that are in this country are believing. So as I end this video, thank you again for all the support. Thank you for the donations. Thank you for listening. Thank you for finally starting to see what I laid out on the table and how it impacts all of you. I worked in a council that looks after land. I worked in a council where your land titles are being manipulated and controlled by foreign interests in your very councils all across Australia. I gave you evidence to be able to speak up against these people, and all you ever did was try to get out of a fine because you were that little hero that had nothing else. Nothing else. And that's the problem that you're finding today. All the houses that have nothing gathered together because they have nothing. And all of you that are about to lose everything have been mind manipulated into ignoring the actual truth while you watched a bunch of houses run around screwing up your ability to manage your future. And that's why we're here, to give people like Tommy Robinson advice as to what he is making the biggest mistake about.
I'm here to save the kids. The children have been murdered. There's been a massacre on the street.
They've got the targeting little white girls all over the country. Let's call a spade a fucking spade.
It's like Russian roulette at this point. Which one's going to be next? No one questioned why BLM were out. No one questions why Palestine are out. We're saving the kids. We're stopping the boats. We're closing the borders. Look how mad we've all gone. This is real women. This is lionesses. This is the lion roaring. I'm not racist and I don't give a fuck what you say.
Then who's trying to kill our kids?
Policies that politicians put in place, yeah?
So as we close off, I'd like you to think. For the last 75 years, you've been manipulated by Zionists. For the last 100 years, you've been manipulated by Papists, neither of which are you. Neither of which are you. So what are you, the Crown, in all of this, to be occupied, administered, manipulated, and kept in debt slavery? So you don't want to go back back to your prison ward, back to the nanny state of guardianship, and you don't want to go forward either as the poor, where they've taken everything from you as the crown, and then seek to imprison you and enslave you, and it's no longer about debt, it's all about power. So you don't want to go forward to communism, and you don't want to go backwards to papism or Zionism. What do you want? You want to return back to who you were before an abdication of the throne even existed. You want to return back to gold and silver wealth in your own hands, and you want to stop using what is a reserve currency. Now, we talked about a motorcycle having a reserve tank. If you only rely on a 1 litre tank, you're never ever filling up the 20 litre tank. You'll never go anywhere. This is the literal equation of what you are doing. You're taking a borrowing and then being treated as a debt slave to the point where you can't pay the interest off on the loan, and then therefore the creditor comes in and says, I'll take all your land off you instead. And that's what happened in the last lockdowns. They're testing you to see how far they can push you, to see how subordinate you will be. Lock you down in your homes was a test. Remove all the toilet paper off the shelves was a test to see how you react as a people. And it's very demonstrated that you acted like tantying children in all concerns. And this is not a way forward, is it? When you're manipulated by a foreign faith in your land, and King Charles III is failing to defend the faith. And we go back to that pay stick, Tommy. What's it all mean? While you run around like a belligerent. That's why the media got onto you. That's why the media are playing this the way they are. That's why they'll try and defame you in front of all and sundry. And here comes that rain that we tried to stay away from. So I'm getting out of it, and we will catch you later. And again, thank you for the donations. More info here at the end of the video. Till next time.
Their leader is sunning himself, sniffing cocaine in a Cyprus hotel right now. Yes, I refer to Stephen Laxley Yennon, or whatever his name is. Tommy Robinson, he'll be better known to you. He's literally in a Cypriot hotel by a swimming pool, sniffing coke at your expense. You idiot, far-right thugs who keep him in the style to which he has become accustomed. He lit the torch and ran away, fled out of London, and is now, he hopes, out of reach in Cyprus. I have a feeling that he'll be back to face the music pretty damned quick.
So first up, I'd like to thank everybody that chucked in a donation. It's enabled me to keep going. Here's the details to donate. Very, very happy that we are able to keep going. So thank you very much to those of you that have participated, and we look forward to continuing. So you can see we've touched on quite a few things, but I could go into more detail on every single one of them. I'd like to thank everyone for participating. I'd like to thank everyone for donating. This allows us to keep in step, to be able to question this government as to what it's doing and how it has that authority to do that. It's a war crime. It's a technical, literal war crime that they've committed. And they're using people like David Halpin and Anne Toomey to try and weasel their way out of the fact that they actually committed these offences. These are serious, heinous offences that see a death penalty. A death penalty for doing this to an entire population and larger. It's called a crime against humanity. called a crime against humanity, what Perrottet admits to doing in the Parliament. Openly admitted it. It's called war crime. Now, you can keep going the way you're going, and all the individuals tantying and protesting and rioting in the streets, or you could realise something. A foreign military power moved into your country 75 years ago, have been manipulating you into a debt slavery system, have taken all your wealth from underneath your feet and left you with nothing as they push you out. You could realise that. And you could realise that all your riots and tantying in the streets won't fix that. You need to unite. You need to unite properly and start relying on each other instead of slandering and abusing each other because you think you're better than the next man because you learnt some stupid law on the internet that's wrong. That's wrong. And that's why people like Anne Toomey come out and manipulate the situation from a propaganda point of view. There's no other reason for an old lady like that to go onto YouTube other than being manipulated by people that are above her. This is very demonstrative by the comments of Rob Sudi. So, my warning to you all is this. If you keep going the way you're going, they're going to crush you, and you will own nothing. If you start to realise what they've done to you and act in kind, realise it. Change the way you are. Change the way you act. Stop using the Reserve Bank currencies. Stop relying on all their contracts. Stop signing all their employment declarations. Stop playing their GST, ABN, tax office name game. You only need to do that when you step up into the realm of business. That's what a government is for, to make sure that you operate in commerce fairly between each other. You're being treated as debt slaves and therefore being held to the liabilities of that loan. You think your tax pays for things in the country? No, it services the liabilities on a loan so you can keep borrowing from those people like Larry Fink who run all of the privatisation of all of your government assets. And they're not government assets, they're the people's assets where the people organised a bunch of people inside the people to manage the people's assets on behalf of the people. And then a bank moved in and said, no, we're going to run it all for you and we're going to make you pay for it while we live off a silver spoon. Like Bill Gates, like Larry Fink, like Amazon, what's his name? Bezos. Right? You think it's normal for people to have multi-billion-dollar companies when 50 years ago $1 billion wasn't even in existence? How did we go from millions to billions? And how did people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Microsoft, Bill Gates get that? Look behind them at the military that uses their computers, their spaceships, their satellites, their Neuralink brain technology, their logistics, their warehouses, their software to run their logistics. Do you think that's all important to a manipulating BlackRock? Of course it is. How are they going to manage all of you without all of those things provided by these men that have been propped up to be billionaires? It's time to think. It's time to look at what is going on instead of running around the street like little rats, protesting and complaining and tantying and burning your own house down. Instead of looking at who came in it to manage it for you.